Welcome to the Broadside Podcast.
With host, my dad, Andy Elliott.
Welcome back to another episode of the Broadside Podcast. On today's episode, I'm joined once again by Kelsey Ross from the Conservation Coalition of Washington. And we have a special guest by the name of Dan Gates joining us with the Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management. Dan has become the face of this fight against the hunting ban efforts going on in Colorado. We chat with Dan for about an hour. Dan's been on, I think he said this was his 69th podcast. And so if there's any questions you have that I don't get to, search his name. I didn't want to keep Dan. I could talk to Dan for hours, but I didn't want to keep him too long. So make sure you check the show notes. I'll drop some links to where you can find their website, their social media. Also, I'll link my website. So if you're needing anything to help you out in the outdoors this year, check it out. ElliottOutdoors.com. Guns, ammo, all sorts of good stuff. So yeah, and if you're enjoying this podcast, it'd help me out to like, share, comment, subscribe, whatever, and head on over and maybe pick up a T-shirt or something from my website to kind of help me going. So I appreciate everybody listening. And if this doesn't get you excited about fighting for hunting rights, you might need to get your pulse checked.
Yeah. So if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself for probably the 500th time recently, Dan.
Yeah. So appreciate the opportunity, Andy and Kelsey. My name is Dan Gates. I'm the executive director for the Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management. And I'm also the president for the Colorado Trappers and Predator Hunters Association. And I wear a bunch of other hats and step in a lot of boots. And sometimes I have to clean the boots off before I turn around and put my hat on. So a lot of things going on in the landscape in Colorado, but looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on and chatting with us. And then obviously, for those who've listened, Kelsey's joining us in for this. And so Dan, let's before we get into the meat and taters, what's a little bit more about your background and history with kind of hunting and how you got involved in this whole deal?
Well, I've been playing on the politics side for the better part of 20 years. A lot of it was I just couldn't stand around on the sidelines anymore and watch people, in my opinion, be ineffective and inefficient and fail, which is what they were doing. They didn't put up a very formidable fight on a bunch of different levels. Since I was a kid, I started working in a taxidermy shop when I was a kid and just hung around outfitters and guides and trappers and fur buyers and game wardens and ranchers and taxidermists and Western artists and so forth. And it just instilled a level of enthusiasm for the outdoors. And because I was outside with all these guys, and I learned what I would consider to be the old school side of things, because there was a concern about the environment, but not like what we see it today. There was a concern about wildlife and natural resources, but not like what we see today. Those guys were boots on the ground, experience, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 generation guys that learned from their forefathers about land and water conservation and natural resource management. And it kind of, naturally cycled me into different levels of my life. And at a very young age, as a young adult, I started a wildlife control business, which I still own and operate today. My son runs with me. And we handle human-animal conflict resolutions from a variety of different things. People say, oh, you trap skunks and squirrels. Well, we do, but we do a lot more bigger things than that as well. I mean, anybody that has anything to do with wildlife on the landscape, whether it's at airports, water treatment facilities, power plants, you name it. And we do a lot of it because we've been around a long time and we've got the street cred and the credentials, the gravitas to be able to do things differently. We do a lot of lift work, 25, 50, 100-foot lifts. We do a lot of underground type stuff. We do a lot of habitat modification and restoration, human health and safety and endangered and threatened species, federal and state permits. And it's not all a kill and grill deal. A lot of it is working with different sectors of human society to benefit wildlife society. And I think what we're dealing with today is the culmination of efforts from an ignorant general public, an uneducated general public, with the science of supposed modern day that goes into but the utilization of the historical and anecdotal data over the last 125 years. The problem that we see is the extremists, the animal activists today, they don't believe the science. They don't believe the data. They don't believe the century and a quarter of facts and processes and procedures and models like the North American model of wildlife conservation. So it kind of threw us into a deal, and we lost a lot of things in Colorado, just like what you guys did in Washington and Oregon and on the West Coast in California. And I got tired of sitting around essentially being kicked in the butt and waiting for somebody else to jump up and do it. So I started participating wholeheartedly, had a different ideology because since I was a kid, I watched these guys. And then when we formulated the Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management in 2016, it catapulted us to a different level because of a 501c4 status that is different than a C3 or a 6 or a 7. And it gives us an opportunity for political advocacy along with education. But when we started CRWM back in 2016, we became the only organization in Colorado that had full-time lobbying representation at the Colorado State Capitol for sportsmen and women issues. And while all the other groups participate in some capacity, and most of them support us monetarily and otherwise, because of the tax status, they can't engage like what a C4 can. And sometimes they can get in trouble, or sometimes they don't have the money. And I think that that's a weakness, and it's a chink in the armor that the conservation and sportsmen and women community has had to figure out a way to fix. It's just that not everybody jumped on board for that as of yet. But with this campaign that we're running right now, you see a lot of organizations, entities, and individuals, and even the business industry itself coming around going, this is a do or die deal in Colorado, and we got to figure out a way to support this because this model has been broken when you're trying to deal with and talk to the general public. And we're trying to fix that on a small scale, hoping to be able to spread that out and broaden our net. Long explanation about where I come from and where we got to, but that's kind of an overview.
Yeah, I really like that. I've heard you mention that on a couple of podcasts, the C4 status. I feel like there's plenty of C3s out there, and
yeah,
you guys have plugged in really nicely with what you guys got going on. And we can probably get into that a little bit later. I think we have a couple of questions, kind of maybe some advice questions for you, but yeah, I've seen your face a lot, and I enjoy it when you pop up. I wonder, I hate that you have to, right? Like,
yeah, try being my face.
Yeah. I know you're a busy man. You're everywhere. And I wanted to start off by saying thanks for all you're doing. It's I don't know. I hope it's not a thankless job, but you seem like you're doing plenty of great work.
No, I appreciate that. It's not a thankless job. It's just it's becoming a tiresome job. With as much effort and time that we put into this prior to the ballot initiative. We've done many successful things. We've never been defeated at any level with the Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management. And that's something to say in a state that has turned more animal extremist than anything. But no, it's not a thankless job. It's just that we have to educate our side almost as much as we have to fight the extremist side. And educating our side is becoming a burden because who we really should be talking to is the general public, not the extremist and not our side. And we have to talk to our side almost just as much to get them to understand the importance of not only what is going on here, but the importance of being able to support and defend and enhance and promote science-based wildlife management and not promote ballot box biology, to promote the North American model of wildlife conservation. And those are things that the general sportsman typically doesn't do a very good job of, nor do most of the organizations. And the reason being is because they don't talk to the general public. They don't talk to that key voter, that 75 or 80% in the middle. So it's not thankless, but it's tiresome because you would like to get some significant support that wasn't just, out of obligation or, we have a little bit of time. Those organizations and entities and individuals and businesses should be doing this all the time. They should be talking to the general public probably more than they should be talking to their members, but they don't. And we're trying to hopefully build a roadmap and a playbook to maybe change and alter that in some capacity. Because if we don't, I don't know how much longer we can sustain these types of results nationwide, region-wide, and statewide.
You are really at the tip of the spear. And for us on the coalition, we run our own coalition here in Washington to tackle some of the same issues that you guys are. But you've set such a great example for us. It really is a challenge dealing with our own community, educating them, getting people engaged and involved in the fight. It is difficult to even get past that, let alone reach the general public. So I give you all the credit in the world for all you've done so far.
Well, I appreciate that. Honestly, you do. I mean, it doesn't go unnoticed, but the one thing that I could say is we're starting to see a legitimate movement. We're starting to see the needle maybe, come up a little bit for our side, to where people are being made aware and they're a little bit more cognizant of the surroundings, and they start to realize, well, I thought it was just a mountain lion and a bobcat deal. And when it comes down to it and they read the language and they go, wait a minute, whoa, that has to do with dogs. Why are they talking about dogs? If they're going to get rid of hound hunting, why are they just talking about dogs in general? And, you look at the language in this specific measure to have to explain to our guys over and over and over at every banquet and every fundraiser and every event and every podcast. I mean, I think now this is the 69th podcast that I've done since January 1st. I never listened to a podcast before January 1st. I mean, the first one I ever did was Rockcast, and Robbie Denning and Travis Hobbs, and it just kind of escalated from there. But our community is looking for, and I don't want to say this like we're pedestalizing ourselves, but they're looking for a leader on something that they can hang their hat on. And I don't think that I'm the quintessential leader, but I think that they're more than looking for a leader. They're looking for a movement to follow or to hang a hat on. And I know that for a fact, just based upon the amount of money that has been sent in from other states and Canadian provinces to support our effort here for people that will hunt here, want to hunt here, and will never hunt here, because they see that this has become the epicenter of the way that this language is written on the statutory definition of what trophy hunting would be. It is a mountain lion and bobcat deal, but trophy hunting is defined in it as intentionally killing, wounding, stalking, pursuing, or entrapping a mountain lion or a bobcat. Colorado's no more important than Washington or Oregon or New Mexico or New Hampshire, for that matter. But the language would be the first time in the country that trophy hunting would be defined, and utilizing the terms that you would define hunting as in that trophy hunting statute. That opens up a can of worms, because you could literally take bobcats and lions out, as I've said many times, and put bighorn sheep or coyotes or moose and mallard ducks in, for that matter. It would be a statutory definition and set a precedent on legal terms that would degrade and erode science-based wildlife management and the North American model.
Yeah, this really is not about Colorado. This is about all of us and hunting all over this nation, and keeping the integrity of this model, because we have these folks, these anti-hunting extremists, who want to replace the successful self-funding model with rewilding, with compassionate conservation, things that do not have a record of being successful for managing wildlife or perpetuating them into the future.
Yeah, I think we're at a point now. I mean, we have one of your former assistant directors now as our director. We have Samantha Bruger Miller, who was in Washington, who is now with Cats Aren't Trophies, the campaign manager. There's an overflow, and I guess we're going to get some of your wolves next year as well here if the lawsuit doesn't go through. There's a lot of similarities. There's a lot of differences, but there's a lot of similarities with some of these other states. But the ideologies between agenda-driven gubernatorial candidates or governors or administrations are similar. And the animal rights extremists utilize success in one location to turn around and try to take it somewhere else and capitalize on it. And what I would say is that being able to manufacture a victory out of something doesn't just help Colorado in this instance. This helps the entire United States, if not the Western United States by itself, because of the big game predatory component of wildlife management that we have. And but I think this is the tipping point. And if we fall here, and we fall by the tactics that they've employed, I would say that there's going to be significant turmoil in the next 2 years at different levels across the nation. And that's why we're fighting so diligently. And I think that's why, honestly, that a lot of our industry leaders, whether it's the celebrity guys or the podcast guys or, the television, I call them the camo movie stars, they've got a hell of a following and they're getting a message out. The industry in itself, without naming everybody, because I'll probably end up losing somebody and forgetting them or leaving them off the list. But we've never seen this sort of outreach and this sort of follow-up and this sort of generosity that has come around, because once they read the language, they call and go, what can we do to help? They heard us on a podcast or they saw some article in a paper or something and listened to our stuff and videos on the website or Instagram. Not until they read the language did they go, holy crap, this is just not a one-off to stop some predator hunting in a specific state. This could catapult the extremists to a level that we haven't seen in the United States ever.
When you hear them talk, they talk about these targeted attacks that they have on the western side of this nation. I think where they come next, after whether they're successful or not in Colorado, is probably Washington State. That's honestly what I believe. All of these, we have such a web of connection, I would say, between these organizations. They're the same ones that are stopping doing things here in Washington right now, same people as in Colorado. We have a commission meeting up this week and dealing with all the same culprits: Mountain Lion Foundation, Washington Wildlife First, which is tied to Samantha Berger Miller, whatever her name is, and whoever else. I think, this is where this goes next. But if you guys succeed in Colorado, you're going to cut back on some of that traction that they've been gaining and bring some to our side of the aisle instead of theirs. And we'll know this going forward.
Well, and we honestly believe that. I mean, we've got until July 5th to decide, where we're at and if they got the signatures by then or not. If they don't, we'll claim an early victory. But without saying too much on our plans and our plan of attack, I mean, there'll be some preemptive measures after July 5th, if it's appropriate. Now, if they get the signatures and they get certified by, early August, well, from August until November 5th, we're going to be on a full-blown onslaught, campaign to defeat this measure. But you're exactly right. In our opinion, the roadmap and the playbook that we've got 12 of 16 chapters written on, this is something that every organization, every entity, every state, every species, organization that covets a particular species or method of take, they can capitalize on what we've been successful on, especially in states that have ballot initiatives. And the ones that don't have ballot initiatives, they still need to get organized, and they have to get their poop in a group, so to speak. I mean, they got to figure out a way that if you can't do it in a C3, which you can't, then you better formulate a C4. If you can't formulate a C4, then you better formulate a pack. If you can't form a pack, then you better think about, creating some sort of other, complementary parallel movement to get other organizations on a coalition or something. And I know you guys are involved heavily, but the coalitions can only do so much when it comes to fundraising and your bylaws. And if you're an organization or just a get-together coalition, we've got an organization here called the Colorado Wildlife Conservation Project that I'm the vice chair of. And it's 24, 25 different organizations that come together. We've been together for about 2.5 years now. And they see the ideologies is exactly the same with each other. However, they all have different tax statuses and they only could do a certain thing. And unless they turn around and put their efforts in underneath the coalition umbrella, which is not formally a tax-based organization, there are some weaknesses in that. And I think that as a C4 with CRWM, we still provide something that they don't. I'm not saying they can't, but they haven't formulated that yet. I mean, they can do a call to action to their members, but as a C3, how do they justify doing a political call to action to the general public? And I think that those are things that we need we need to hash out. But I think you're exactly right. I think Oregon and Washington are the tip of the spear at the next level. However, from a non-ballot driven state, I would think that New Mexico is probably the most vulnerable at this point in time, primarily because it's not a ballot initiative state. Their organizations are not as tightly woven and organized as what they should be. Their financial resources are even more extremely limited than some other states. And after losing a few times, and we know this in Colorado, we lost bear hunting in '92 for the spring for no hounds, no bait, and we lost trapping with foothold traps, body gripping devices, and cable restraint devices in 1996. And that was one of the reasons I got involved, because I criticized what was done or what wasn't done at that time. But if you look at New Mexico, I think that New Mexico is the easiest way to flank and capture a victory and establish a victory, not just so much to defeat us, but to prop their bolster of their efforts up from the opposition side, and maybe get some more money and say, oh, look, we came to New Mexico and we kicked the crap out of them. I think it's going to be a lot harder for them to do that if they lose here in Colorado. And we're fully prepared to be able to help defend New Mexico as whatever level we can. And with our playbook and roadmap, I think we could be successful in that, even in that setting. These extremists, they don't like to lose. They don't want to lose here, but they damn sure don't want to lose here and then go somewhere else and lose. That's not in their playbook. And so if you guys are organized as well as what you could be or should be in Washington and Oregon, I don't think that that's the lowest hanging fruit. They're not going to want to go beat their head against the wall and possibly lose 2 in a row. And I think that New Mexico would probably be the most vulnerable, volatile landscape where they would have a simple chance of a margin of victory with a little bit of margin of error. And but if we can beat them here, it's going to be a hell of a lot harder for them to turn around and go to the south and flank us and then work their way to the northwest to you guys.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was hinting at earlier, is some advice on, and if you're not familiar, we're members of, we're not a formal group or entity by any means. It's just called the Conservation Coalition of Washington. It's a bunch of grassroots men and women who came together to try to kind of educate the public on the issues. And, we're trying to follow some sort of a roadmap to really start making some wins and some headway. So as a group who's just forming and getting going, what's kind of some advice you might have?
From our perspective, as long as I've been playing this, you keep going to the well for the same people. You keep going to the well for the same finances. And if we hadn't formed CRWM back in 2016, and if we didn't have the financial resources to do what we've done right now, I'll just put it frankly, the coalition is worthless. It can't write the check. It can't make the decision. It doesn't have the status. And one of those other organizations is going to either have individuals in it at some point in time and they falter, or they decide we can't sign on to that. We can't be part of it. And in all reality, it has an effort. It has a level of momentum in itself, but it doesn't have any teeth to speak of. And here we are with the same situation here, except for out of all the groups that I mentioned, CRWM is still the only 501c4. We're the only ones that had the ability to turn around when they, and not to criticize, it's just a fact that when the opposition dropped the initiative on September 22nd of last year, we were immediately notified by people at a higher level than I. And by the 25th of September, I had pushed the button and we immediately activated the financial component, the litigious component, and the campaign manager component in 3 days. RMEF couldn't do that. MDF couldn't do that. Safari Club couldn't do that. Muley Fanatics couldn't do that. Why? Because they had to turn around and generate money and they had to get their boards together. We had 10 days to make our decision. We did it in 3. And if we'd have missed that 10-day mark, we'd have been behind the 8 ball and we would have lost, and they would have been gathering signatures legitimately starting November 1st. And because of our resources and because of our capability to act so expeditiously and be adaptive and nimble, we kicked them back to almost February 3rd, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but to the tune of several $100,000, we were able to do that. The coalition couldn't do that. Coalition had no means to do that. Matter of fact, the coalition didn't really have the first conversation about that until late October. There again, because it was hunting season. Coalitions are all out doing their stuff. You couldn't get a board member from each organization to get together if there was a fire in the house, which we consider that to be a fire. Biggest advice I would give is to make sure that you immediately structure yourselves to where there's a decision-making body that can immediately formulate a plan and have financial resources to do what you need to do and not talk 3, 4, 6, 8 weeks or 4 months after the fact. It's good to be in those conversations, but unless we have the ability to act at all levels, I think that we will continually get kicked in the butt. We will continually get pushed aside, and we won't be as viable of a threat as what our opposition has become, because they can do exactly what CRWM did. And I think we need 20 organizations that are C4s. I think we need 50 organizations that are C4s. I think we need multiple organizations that are C3s that have C4 arms, part of a coalition, like what you guys have and like what we have. And so the biggest piece of advice that I say is figure out a way to create having the box. The tool box is fine, but unless you can utilize all those tools in that box, you just have a toolbox.
So how far out do they still have to collect signatures for, and how close do you think they are to getting?
Well, they've got until July 5th, which it's worth noting because of that long explanation that I gave you, that we knocked 30 days off of the front side of that.
Yeah.
We went through the Supreme Court, Title Board, Secretary of State process, and all of that combined took them down from 180 days to, I think, 151 days, which caused significant turmoil on their end. That if they don't get signatures, that 30 days is going to be a significant victory right there, and it cost $150,000. They got until July 5th, and they went about 4 weeks ago to paid signatures, where they actually have firms that are out there collecting signatures for a fee. But for the first 4 months of the campaign, they went volunteer, and they found out that volunteer was not as good as what volunteer sounds. It's great if you get a whole army of people to show up, but when it's snowing and it's raining and it's cold or the wind's blowing and you keep getting told in front of Whole Foods or Home Depot, screw you, I'm not doing that. And you got graduations and all the other stuff. I mean, it's a downtrodden effort to get out there. And right now, I mean, we're standing in, if anybody's doing it, they're standing in 100, 102, 105 degree heat on a paved parking lot, wind blowing like hell today and tomorrow. And, those are not things that most people enjoy by standing out there trying to hold paper clipboards together and collect 8 signatures or 28 signatures or 80 signatures in a day. They need 124,234 certified signatures. The way that they're going and the way that they did at the first part of this with volunteer, we assume that they might need somewhere around 180 to 190,000 total signatures from certified registered voters, where all the signatures are compiled to where they're eligible, legible, and they're certified to where the 124,238 is the number that they need. We have no idea where they're at right now. They don't have to disclose. And to be honest with you, the emails that they put out so far in the last 6 weeks, I don't know whether they know where they're at. I know that they're doing a call to action, and it sure seems like that they're scrambling. They might disagree, but if I read into it, I would not want to be the football player on that coach's team the way they've been trying to rally the troops, because I would have said, I just claimed a knee injury at the fourth quarter, and I'm going into the locker room to watch you guys get your ass kicked. They do not have a very good strategy. Now, I'm not saying they won't get the signatures, but their strategy has not been very formidable at this point in time. And that's obvious by the way that we took them to the mat and be prepared to do that in October and November and December and January and ultimately February, when we formulated the Issues Committee, which is Colorado Wildlife Deserve Better, which is in conjunction, it parallels with the Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management. It's just that the Issues Committee deals just with the campaign, and CRWM, the Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management, deals with an advocacy effort that parallels a campaign and an education arm based upon our tax structure being a C4. And so our hands are tied to some degree, but not tied like the opposition is. And I'm interested to see just how this is going to play out, because if we win, either by July or by November, all of that goes into the history books and helps with the playbook and the roadmap to make sure that everybody else can see this is how you win. These are the steps that need to be taken, and these are why you need to turn around and take them.
We absolutely need some wins, whether it's for you guys in Colorado, organizations seeing those wins, learning from your playbook, and just the general hunting community having a win. I think so many of us are just demoralized to begin with all of these political issues, and just the 1-2 never-ending just attack from these anti-hunting groups. Here in Washington, it seems like an every other day thing, something else is happening. So it will be great to follow in your guys' footsteps and all you have done to lead the way in defending yourselves from this attack.
I'll just say something real quick, Kelsey, that easy targets are ones that don't fight back. And historically, our side has not fought back very formidably. We've won a few things here and we've lost a few things, or maybe somebody else forfeited or whatever. But an easy target becomes easier to turn around and go after, whether it's on the football field. I use a lot of sports analogies, on the battlefield, or just look at Mother Nature in itself. Easy targets become easy prey, and that's what something starts to go after over and over and over. If we'd put our damn foot down collectively within this country, within this region, within the states, I wouldn't want to mess with us. There's 14 million sportsmen and women in the United States. If we would get off of our asses and actually do what we gripe about not doing or doing, we would be the most formidable, organized effort in the world. We damn sure be the biggest army. I mean, there's not anybody that's got 11 or 12 or 14 million people that are armed. But besides the fact that we carry guns and bows and knives, we would be the most formidable opposition. It's just that most of our people have historically taken a lot of this for granted, and they don't pay attention to the need to defend and fight for something that we think is a God-given right, to be able to buy a license and go out and pursue something. It's not fun to do this. It's damn sure not fun for me to do it, I'll tell you that. But if we would turn around and just act like we're going to put up a fight and we could win here and there, our victories would become more and more frequent, because then the opposition would be on the defense, not on the offense.
What's funny to me, sorry, Andy, you go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm confused how I constantly still see people that still don't know, 3 years ago we lost the spring bear season here and still have no idea what's going on. And then you also get like replies on social media from people saying that, all you're doing is not going to make a difference anyway. And it's just like, it's just mind boggling how negative and disconnected. I was at one point too, but even when the info's in front of some of these people, they still don't seem to care.
A lot of it is, it's ignorance on our part. Some of it's being uneducated. Some of it's the lack of intestinal fortitude. That the doom and gloom that they've bought into, they hear so much of that on social media or through the press or, from other states or whatever. I want to be part of a winning team. And I think that everybody that I associate with, for the most part, wants to be part of a winning team. And if they don't, I don't have a hell of a lot of use for them. They say, what can I do? Well, we needed to do that. Well, I don't have time for that. Well, we needed to do that. Well, I can't do this. Well, okay, you wanted to know what can you do? And I'm giving you suggestions. Do you want to be part of the victory or part of the loss? You want to be part of the solution? We have something before us that we just have to decide what we're going to do with it. And I joke about it, but I can tell you wholeheartedly that the amount of people that hit me up over the course of the last 6 or 7 years that go, what can I do? Now, this is before the ballot initiative. What can I do? And you take them to the Capitol, and you take them to a commission meeting, and you go to an event, and you see a bill go through the process, and you do some Congressional Sportsman Foundation caucuses, and you do some legislative receptions, and you do Sportsman's Days at the Capitol, and you have some small victories here and there. No defeats, small victories here and there. Those are the people that are helping us right now in masses on this ballot initiative, because they saw all the victories. They came in with open eyes. They didn't have a defeatist attitude. They have families, they have businesses, they have skin in the game on this. And they saw what could have happened in the last 4, 5, or 6 years if we didn't do what we did. And they were part of some of those maybe negligible, maybe minimal opportunities at victory, but they were part of it. And now they're like balls to the wall. What do we do? How do we do this? Because we saw the success of victory, and we see that we almost have the antis on the run. Now they're sacrificing their lives. Maybe not as much as I am, because I don't have kids left at home, but there's something there. I mean, success and momentum breeds success and momentum. And it also breeds to the point to where when you start to see your opposition get so antagonistic and see so demeaning and so admonishing and belittling, it's not demoralizing to us. It actually is a badge of honor, because we know that we've gotten under their skin, under their saddle, and into their head. And that's part of the playbook. They've been doing that to us for the last 50 years in some capacity. And everybody's just cast aside and ignored it. They're not casting aside and ignoring it here anymore. And I think that if we win, I think we're going to win, but if we win in July or November, either way, we're going to catapult the people on our side of the fence to another level to go, what do we do next? Now let's do preemptive. Let's now do something offenses. What's our next step to success and victory? It's not sitting back and waiting again. We've always waited. Why we always waited? Because we always keep fighting. We're always defeating. We're always defending and trying to stop a defeat. We need to be on the offense. How do you get on the offense? You put the opposition on the defense.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're looking to do here in Washington. It is rough when you have these antis, the people who want to take something away. They're the most motivated, it seems, so much of the time, instead of the people who have something. We have to fight to keep what we have. We have to fight to get on the offense. And yeah, I really think what you guys are doing here in Colorado, it is a moral boost to all of us. And it's exactly what we need. Those small wins, like you said, they mean a lot to our community to get people engaged, involved, and, quit sitting on the sideline and playing catch up. We need to quit playing catch up.
I'll tell you a quick story. I mean, I rodeoed as a kid, and I wasn't a great big rodeo star, and I rodeoed pretty good as a kid, but until I grew, and then my center of balance became more of an obstacle. And instead of a monkey sitting on the back of a bull, it was like a giraffe trying to hang on to the back, and I fell off more than I ever stayed on then. But I remember playing. I didn't play football very well because I was one of the smaller kids. But on the times that I got a chance to get off the bench, I turned around and made the best effort I could possibly make. And then the coach started putting me in more because I was doing more of an effort. And even though we didn't win as many games as what we had liked, the efforts that we were putting out on the field, the legitimate hard-earned efforts, didn't go unnoticed, and they were acknowledged. And then when I started playing baseball, we had some really good kids playing baseball, and you had to kind of just, divide up the task and the duties. Some of the good hitters wouldn't turn around and hit as well, so the other people had to step up. That's what you need to find in our side. And why? Because the opposition does that very well. Why? Because they're paid and they're passionate about turning around and taking everything away from us. They don't care whether it's rabbit hunting. They don't care whether it's deer hunting. They don't care whether it's falconry. They don't care whether it's sport fishing. They want it all gone. And their mission is to stop it all. Our problem is that we've got, for instance, 78 game species in the state of Colorado, 10 or 11 big game species, 17 fur-bearing species, archery, muzzleloading, rifle, late season, guided, unguided, you name it. They want to take it all away. And our guys are sitting here griping, these guys get this and those guys get that, and ain't none of them paid. They're all on a volunteer deal. I can't go to that meeting because I'm going to graduation. I can't go to that meeting because I'm going on vacation. The antis have somebody there all the time because they have paid. The structure that we have to defend what we have is not set up in the level that the opposition has. I'm not saying that we don't have any paid staff, and I'm not saying that we don't have any legitimate representation. But overall, when we go to defeat the opposition on whatever the issue is, if somebody on their side's on vacation, some other paid staff is there to take it up. When somebody else turns around and has a broken leg or a maternity leave, they've got people backed up to take it up. We don't. We have volunteer chapters, volunteer boards, volunteer presidents, volunteer vice presidents or chairs. Very seldom do we have paid executive directors, which I am one. And I'm not bragging to the fact that I get a paycheck, but I could tell you what, I worked for our business 11 days out of this entire year. Somebody's got to help me pay my bills so I can turn around and dedicate 90 hours a week. The opposition has that regularly. They've got volunteers, but they got a hell of a lot of paid staff. Look at their 990s on the tax side. Look at the money that turns around and goes into staff. If we had that money, they couldn't beat us because our guys would be there out of obligation and job. If they went on vacation, somebody'd back them up. We don't have that. If we don't have that and we don't talk to the general public enough, and we don't turn around and advocate enough when we don't need to in preparation for when we do need to, if we don't have those things, how do we compete on an even field and field an even team? And I think that that's been part of our problem as well.
Yeah. I'm hoping I'm helping pay your paycheck.
I
got a new hoodie.
At least you didn't get the one with my damn face on it. I mean,
I should have. That's why I want to be Dan Gates when I grow up.
Yeah. So, well, you better put a target or a crosshair on that damn thing then, because there's a lot of responsibility and a lot of ignorance that comes with that.
I have to work on my beard too.
Yeah. My team came up with that picture with my damn face on the shirt, and that surprise. I said, what the hell? Seriously? And I walked into my house and my wife had that same color, the hoodie on that you got, and it had my damn face on it with one of my mountain man regalia outfits that I've got. And I said, well, what is that? and she said, well, Luke and Mark came up with that. And I said, why? I mean, I just saw no sense in it. We've sold a hell of a lot of those shirts and those tumblers and stuff with my damn face on it, which why I do not know, but there must be some really, really sick or lonely people out there.
Dan, you've become quite iconic, so
well,
no surprise.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. We're just, look, I mean, I'm the face of this at this point in time, and I'm taking the brunt of the attack and the assault from the opposition, and I don't want our team to do that. These guys have gotten fairly dirty. They've gotten fairly obscure in being dirty. But they're not ashamed to call you out. They're not ashamed to put your stuff online. They're not ashamed to attack you verbally, or in some cases attempt to do it physically. They're not ashamed to threaten you and belittle you. They're not ashamed to create vandalism. And I don't want my team to have to go through that. But I could tell you that the badge of honor that comes with this, that knowing that you're driving these bastards absolutely batshit crazy. And they need to be driven batshit crazy, because that's what they do when it comes to game managers. That's what they do when it comes to landowners. That's what they do when it comes to conservation and sportsmen and women. And I'm glad that we're on the opposite side of that at this point in time, because we are driving them batshit crazy.
Good. That makes me happy. Brings some joy.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to ask is, what do you think the public perception to all of this CATS campaign has been? You go on their site, if you're not someone who understands, if you're disconnected from hunting, from the landscape, you're going to think that stuff looks pretty good. They're telling the whole truth. Little do they know that it's chocked full of lies, chocked full of deceit, twisted statistics and whatnot. What do you think the public perception is? How do you think they have been receiving your message? I want to hear about that.
Well, I think overall the public, that middle of the roader that we call it, that from some other things that I'm involved in that I need to keep separate from this campaign because of the statutory requirements within that. But there's what we classify as the in the wind crowd. They kind of blow back and forth between one side or the other. We classify them between 18 and 34 years old, and they might go into that maybe 39 to 44-year-old category. But they have an interest in wildlife management. They're not opposed to hunting. They're opposed to cruel and inhumane treatment. But if you can explain to them the science and the management side of what hunting actually is, I mean, with all due respect, the intent of hunting is to kill, but that's not trophy hunting. Trophy hunting is in the eye of the beholder, and I think we should be empowered from our side to be able to educate and talk and inform that in the wind crowd. Some of them might have kids. Some of them might, be more a little bit on the mutualistic environmentalist side of things. They have a different perspective. Now, do they believe in animal rights extremism? Not necessarily. Do they believe in something like the Daniel, Wyoming, Cody Roberts deal? Definitely not. But there's a mix in there that it's up to us to educate. And I think when they see the extremist mentality from the cat side, there's some people that are going to fall into that trap. Our job before a ballot, during a ballot, and even after the ballot in preparation for the next issue that they bring up is to continually show the benefits of hunting and fishing and to make sure that in the wind crowd, that middle of the roader, gets something thrown at them occasionally. Just like what I was saying about Rocky Mountain elk or mule deer, but they're not talking to that crowd. They're trying to get new members. How many of those people actually get a Bugle magazine? They don't, because they're not a member. How many go to a Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation convention? They don't, because they're not a member. How many go to a banquet? Maybe a couple here and there, only because they knew a sportsman or woman that was going, or that somebody in their business bought a corporate table. But they don't understand the concept of what science-based wildlife management is and the importance of it and how they benefit off of it, whether they hunt or not. I think that Mark Duda responsive management survey, something to the effect of 86% of people approved of regulated hunting, especially if you were going to eat it. But as soon as you mentioned trophy hunting, it dropped into the 30 percentile. As soon as you mentioned, something that wasn't necessarily on the radar as far as, let's say, pheasants or deer or elk, it dropped into the 40s and 50s. Bears, other predators, mountain lions, and so forth. It's our job to turn around and educate based upon the facts and the data from the agencies that manage that. Those are the facts that the in the wind crowd would like to be educated about. We found that out. We know that for a fact. It's just a matter of being able to turn around and do it when it's not necessary. You got 9 or 10 or 12 different ballot issues that are going to be on the Colorado ballot this year. It's a lot of information for people to decipher at a variety of different levels. Some are wildlife related. Some are just geographically related in municipalities. People want the facts. They're not stupid. They're just uneducated about different things. And I think if they look at things holistically from a broad scale, that they're going to make the right decision, which they didn't during the wolf deal in 2020 here. And the reason being is because our side didn't put up a formidable defense. They didn't plan appropriately. That's another reason why I think that when we formulated CRWM back in 2016, we should have maybe had a chance to get inside the wolf ballot initiative. And people ask us why we didn't. We were fighting lions and bobcats then. We were fighting the Parks and Wildlife Commission and legislation then. We were taking that on, and the other guys took the wolf deal on. I don't think they took it as seriously as what they could, because they didn't count on what the trump card was for the opposition, and that was the in the wind crowd. They didn't concentrate. Our side didn't concentrate well enough on that 18 to 34-year-old crowd. They didn't concentrate on social media. They didn't concentrate on the facts and the data. They wanted to talk about things that mattered to them and the agriculture community. And anybody that's listening to this podcast here, they're going to criticize the crap out of me for saying that. But the facts are the proof is in the pudding. They lost by less than 2%. They only needed to make up that 2% if they would have given the facts and data to a larger segment of that in the wind crowd, that 18 to 34-year-old crowd. And that's the crowd that we're concentrating on, because we know they're educated. They love the outdoors. 97% of them recreate outside in some capacity. They want wildlife to be managed appropriately, even though they don't engage in the activity or the advocacy for that. They don't fund it, and they're happy with other people doing it as long as it's done with a regulated background what is available in science and the North American model. You give people the facts, they will make the right decisions. You give them the lies, they're going to be guided down the path of ill repute in some capacity.
What's some strategies you guys have utilized to get to that in the win crowd and get the facts out in front of people?
Biggest thing is you got to be in their neighborhood. One of the examples is with the other entity that I'm talking about, that I'm involved in, that I can't parallel those conversations with. There's 5.9 million people in the state of Colorado. 4.7 million of them live within 25 miles east or west of the I-25 corridor, north of Colorado Springs to Fort Collins. What good does it do to talk to somebody in Alamosa, 180 miles to the south, next to the sand dunes, or over in Craig, where everybody up there, for the most part, not everybody, but the overwhelming majority are going to vote in favor of us? Why would we put money in that location? You need to put a little bit. You need to let them know that you're working on it. You have to be in their neighborhoods. You have to be at the ball game. You have to be on the light rail. You have to be on the billboards. You got to be on social media. You need to be in the bars and the restaurants and on the radio. You need to be on the back of tailgates and in Ubers. You need to be able to turn around and provide a comprehensive outreach campaign to let them know what hunters and anglers do benefits them and their family and the ecosystem in Colorado as a whole. If you're going to talk outside of that geographical area, you're going to lose 100% of the time. That's what happened before. We're going to make sure we don't lose that now.
So is your face plastered all over the urban areas down there?
Oh, God, no. I am not going to be the damn. See, that's another thing, too, is for the last 9 months with 69 podcasts and sports shows and events and fundraisers and stuff, I'm talking to our crowd. I'm talking to the sportsmen and women to make sure that they understand the importance of this and the volatility of the landscape. We need their efforts to help fund this because this is uncharted territory. This is a mechanism that is being created as we go to be able to create a conduit, a flow of information to go to that target audience, that in the win crowd, the ones that are going to decide on the vote. Without our side helping to fund that, we cannot afford to talk to 4.7 million people. There's no way. And that was on the backside of our strategy when we were able to push the button on the 25th of September to say, this is the money we got, and we're going to expend it. And we're going to make more, and we're going to expend that. And when they counter us, we're going to expend that. And when they're going to turn around and alter their attack, we're going to turn around and modify our approach. Those are things that we were capable of doing. But without the sportsmen and women in the state of Colorado, the Western United States, and the United States as a whole, without all those other entities that I mentioned, we could not turn around and talk to that target. But when it comes time to talk to the target, they don't want to listen to some old grizzled bastard like me that actually goes out and hunts for a living and runs a wildlife control business. Kelsey, they need to talk to somebody like you. They need to listen to what you have to say. They need to listen to the single mom of 2 on the Front Range that likes to take her kids out in the wilderness to camp or to fish or to backpack or to walk the dog. They need to know that there's people out there that do exactly what we do or don't do what we do, but approve of it, because they're going to think that I'm just one of the heathen killing bastards, and all the guys that I turn around and hang around with are as well. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of people just like you, just like Andy, that people will listen to because they're of a younger background, a younger generation. They have skin in the game from their family background. They work in Denver. They work in Fort Collins. They don't do wildlife control, but maybe they drive a UPS truck. Maybe they deliver flowers. Maybe they work at a cinema or a lawn care facility or a restaurant. Those are the people that you need to turn around and hit. And those people who support our cause can be the ambassadors for that messaging, even on print, even on radio, even on television, even on social media. But for now, we've been talking to ourselves, making sure that we're trying to get our side together to say, how are we going to fund this? How are we going to message this? And that goes into the same conversation about, we're talking to the choir still. And granted, there's a small subset of people on the side that are listening to us. It's kind of a badge of honor when you see the antis listening to us and they're criticizing everything that we're doing. So, we're pissing them off. But No, we need to make sure that our message is direct, bullet pointed, and coming from that in the wind parallel approach. And people that think just like us, but look just like you, people that know the facts, but can approach it from a very educated, benign manner. And that's what's going to win this. It's not going to be a bunch of old ranchers and trappers and elk hunters and bow hunters. It's going to be a collection, an eclectic collection of individuals to be able to get that point across. I mean, nothing is more solid than a young woman who shoots a bow recreationally and goes out occasionally because she started in COVID to maybe try to supply and provide some sort of food for her family or an outlet for that family to get outside and enjoy the outdoors and the recreational opportunities that are available to them that they never knew. That's the messenger. That's the ambassador.
Yeah, I think, we do spend a lot of time in the echo chamber of the people that, probably do listen to this podcast, but yeah, and I could have said it better. I think the showing the diverse group of people that do partake in this is huge, because the old straight white male is not going to be the best avenue for the message.
No, yeah. Well, and the thing is, in today's environment, there's an ideology about history and tradition and heritage, and people don't, for the most part, that in the wind, that 80%, they don't want to screw with somebody's background, their livelihood, their tradition, their family values and morals and ethics, as long as it's reasonable for them to comprehend. Now, you want to turn around and go do what that individual in Cody, Wyoming did, or in Daniel, Wyoming. If you want to turn around and classify him with us, we're all going to lose. We could never win. How do you win? How do you justify anything like that? And how do you turn around and substantiate that he's not a hunter? He's damn sure not a sportsman. He's a poacher. He's illegal, and he needs to turn around and be held accountable. Those are the type of things that we could get classified into that just by the fact that we say we hunt, because that's somebody's perspective of what it is. But if you can turn around and show them that that's not us without even mentioning that, and give them a positive light on it, whether it's Sportsman's Day at the Capitol, the Colorado Outdoors Day, where they turn around and take kids outside and go fishing, hunter education classes. Some of that's just to be knowledgeable about the natural resources and outside. There's opportunities that we have before us that we just don't typically utilize, because the old gray-haired guy has been doing it long enough, and the younger guys that are coming up, more often than not, are interested in preference points and strategies on where they're going to go hunt and how much time they're going to spend in the field. And God forbid if they kill something and they want to do a grip and grin on Facebook or Instagram or something. I don't have a problem with any of that stuff, except for, how about put as much time and effort into the fight as what you do into the field, and we would be undeniably the most formidable opposition on the planet. You don't want to spend that much time? Spend 8 hours a year. You can't spend that much time? Spend 4 hours writing your congressman, your legislator, going to a commission meeting, turn around doing public testimony for 3 minutes on a virtual meeting, writing your current legislator who's acting on your behalf. If we did any of that, that's proactive messaging and advertisement. It's being on the offense as opposed to the defense. You don't wait for them to turn around and come up with a bill to take stuff away. You go talk to them in the off season so they know who you are, that you're a business owner in their district, that you're actually one of their constituents. And then you find out who's on other boards and committees. Those are ways that we do things proactively. Those are ways that we do things outwardly. Why? Because then they start to see that we are part of the system of society. That in turn makes them aware of other people in the system and society, which then makes those people in the system and society aware that we're there. I mean, we all know people in our congregation or our coworkers or our family or neighbors or soccer league or bowling league or gun club or whatever. We all know people that hunt. Not just the ones of us that hunt. They all know us. They came to a barbecue. They ate jerky at the soccer game. Whatever the hell it is, we can be our own best ambassadors. We just have to figure out a way to be able to carry that baton and not worry about the people being concerned about who we are and what we do. We just need to turn around and tell our story. People don't like to screw with somebody's background. They don't want to take it away, but they're damn sure willing to take it away if they think that you're cruel and inhumane and you're doing something illegal because the opposition convinced them of that. The opposition is just a bunch of lying bastards. I mean, at every single level.
Yeah, I feel like there's probably a handful of people that, probably more than a handful, but are almost like they're afraid to even tell some of their coworkers that they hunt or fish because of the stigma that some people have on it. And, there's really no excuse anymore for doing the bare minimum and signing up for things like Howl and what Charles and those guys have got going on over there. Like, it's such an easy button to get your voice heard.
Yeah, you want to hear a statistic and stop and think of this. We all know somebody, and a lot of us have taken a few people hunting. If every sportsman, whatever number you come up with, whether it's 12 million or 11 million or 14 million, if every sportsman that bought a license took somebody once a year for 1 or 2 days, because you're going to do it anyway, take somebody that's enamored with it. Take somebody just to open gates and help you hang a tree stand and put cameras up. If every single person took somebody that doesn't ever do any of this and took them out there and showed them, and if only 30% of those people actually said, hey, I might get involved in that. I might do. We might eventually gripe that we got too many sportsmen in the field, but not everybody's going to be out there at the same time. But if you got 10 million people taking 10 million people and only 30% of them decided they wanted to engage, now you got 13 million people. You can grow something so significantly that can be advocates. And if they don't want to turn around and do it on their own, they know somebody that went out there and they saw when they opened the gates and they hung the trail cameras, and maybe they killed a buck, or maybe they just went over for dinner, that the guy harvested a deer on his own, but the guy went and hang the trail cameras with him, or maybe he helped him get that buck out of the field. He comes over. Now he's part of the process. We just created an advocate as opposed to an adversary. I think we don't do that enough. I know I do it too damn much because the apartment that I'm in here at the barn, it seems like in the wintertime, it's like Motel 6. Tom Bodette would leave the light on for you. And it's like, which is great. Some of them they're comebackers. They come 1 year and then they come the next year and the next year. But a lot of the time, it's just people that have never been before. I just want to go, Gates. I just want to turn around and go hang out. I want to see what you do. Those people are advocates. Women, men, married, got kids, not have kids, they're advocates. And that's part of the process that we need to do. But there again, that's talking to the general public.
Well, we've been on here for a little over about an hour, but I just want to make sure, Kelsey, did you have anything else you wanted to ask? Because I want to make sure we hit on how people can get involved more with CRWM.
No, I think you've done a great job explaining how, what you guys are doing, but also how, we can do things here in Washington State. Great advice, great call to action from you. So thank you.
No, I appreciate it.
So Dan, where's the best way to go donate some money, or the best way to help out?
Well, I wanted to mention too the big raffle that we just had that the Colorado chapter of SCI did. I want to give a shout out to them. I want to give a shout out to the Whitaker Brothers Outfitting that donated the lion hunt, and Ovis Wildlife Taxidermy that donated the full body mountain lion mount, and also the Salida Gun Shop and Gunworks that commingled their efforts to donate the Gunworks 7mm PRC with a scope and stuff. Generated a ton of money. We just drew it. They just drew it on Saturday, and a guy out of Eagle, Colorado, won the lion hunt and mount, and a guy out of Tucson, Arizona, won the rifle. We're going to get ready to start another raffle in about probably a month. We got a big deal coming up that we're working on with Meat Eater, and there again shows the partnership, shows the collaboration. Mentioned some of the previous sponsors that we had, but some of these other guys that are stepping up. Gunworks is willing to turn around and come around. People can go eventually and buy raffle tickets again, and they get a chance to win. Immediately, we need funding because of the Decline to Sign campaign that we're in the middle of. The money that we spend in a ballot initiative in a presidential election year is monumental. I mean, most people say, "Oh, I donated $20." We need your $20, but we need about 1 million people to turn around and kick in $20. But we also want them to save money for Washington and Oregon and California and wherever the hell else we need to turn around and fight these issues as well. Go to SaveTheHuntColorado.com. SaveTheHuntColorado.com. There's a donate button. If you don't want to donate and you want something in return, you can get one of the shop items that's on the shopping site, just like what Andy's wearing. And that is something to where I need to give a shout out to the guys that put that together for us, because they called us and said, "Hey, there's no way for anybody to purchase anything on your website." And we said, "Well, we're not really into that part of it." And they said, we can help you out. And we will donate every single dollar that is generated to this effort. And one of my team members said, "Hey, run with it." It should not go unnoticed that this is a all-out assault that we are campaigning to be able to drive the forces back. And it takes money, takes time, takes effort. And with the mechanisms that we've got created right now, we've got those things put in place. They're not solid to the point where we just say, "Oh, don't send any money anymore," because this is an ongoing effort. But SaveTheHuntColorado.com, you can go there. You can learn about the initiative. You can learn about what the antis have tried at different levels. Initiative 101 is something that we sunk them on, but they tried. Initiative 91 is what they're going for now. I do want to mention, though, Initiative 91, if it gets the signatures and it gets on the ballot, it will not be Initiative 91 for anybody that might listen in the Colorado. It'll be a changed number because the Secretary of State will then change that in accordance with where it falls into the blue book on the ballot itself. But there's a plethora of information. The videos, it's not just me. It's informational, science-based videos, facts, documents, and statistics. You can look at the videos on there. Follow us on Instagram or Facebook. Look at the stuff that we're kicking out. That's what it's going to take to win. I do a few updates here and there. My face is plastered on a few things, but they are professional-driven production company videos that explain exactly where we need to be and what we need to do to be able to carry these type of efforts forward, because we're not going to do it by messaging to ourselves. We have to broaden that net. The SaveTheHuntColorado.com website, when we came up with that name, I said, I don't know, put Save the Hunt Colorado on there. And that was something as a URL. I mean, most typically, we are the Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management. Nobody's going to seek that out. And it's hard to turn around and say that. But Save the Hunt it resonated well enough to both sides of the fence. It pissed the opposition off and bolstered our guys' up. So I'd say, keep in touch with us, get on the mailing list, participate in whatever you possibly can, comment and share and extend our outreach on Instagram, because that has been a major, major driving force of interested parties to go, I heard about this, but I wasn't really sure what it was. And then it'll send them from there to the website to where they can take things, one step at a time and at their leisure to be able to become educated. So we just appreciate, small, medium, large podcasts that are willing to help us out and spread that word, because it's been pretty phenomenal and pretty admirable of what we've been able to accomplish so far. But we couldn't have done it without all the support and all the generosity that's been given, just like you guys and everybody else around the industry and around the country.
Yeah, I think I don't remember which one it was on. It was probably a couple. I've listened to a handful that you've been on, but you said something about it made a lot of sense. If you're someone that's putting in for all these special tags in different states and spending all this money to go, try to hunt Colorado from Washington, you should probably be putting that same amount of money towards saving the hunt in Colorado.
Yeah, I mean, Colorado now, as a non-resident, they just restricted for next year, 2025, through the Parks and Wildlife Commission. They just restricted non-resident license participations towards draw only during archery season. There's no over-the-counter now. That might be favorable to some people, and it might not be favorable to others. But what I can tell you is, you have to have a qualifying license. You have to have preference points. You have an application fee. A qualifying license for a non-resident might cost you 80, 90, 100, 190 bucks, depending on what you decide to get. That's just to apply. And so if you're willing to spend that money just to apply, help us out in some capacity so we can continue to fight, so you can continue to apply. We need that support, because if we go down at this level, I'm fearful from a resident standpoint of what that's not only going to do to residents, but what it's going to likely do to non-residents, and how that model continually becomes degraded and eroded at every single level that everybody kicks into. I mean, we kick it in for a multi-million-dollar agency to do what we think is best, and for the most part, they do a formidable job. I mean, recreation has overtaken a lot of things because of the population density. But you're exactly right. If we can get people to understand, hey, if you're kicking money into the state for the management side, help kick a little bit of money into the organizations that are helping to try to sustain that management side.
Yeah, and to be clear, not only if you plan on hunting Colorado, because the way that initiative's worded, it's not just going to stay there.
No, there's I wish I would carry a cell phone in my pocket enough when I hand somebody a document, or I get their phone and I punch it up and I turn it to them and they read it in front of you, and you see this look of amazement, or well, I had no idea it was like that. Well, how can it not? How they just don't understand until they read it. Me talking about it sounds like bobcats and mountain lions, and lynx for that matter. Lynx are federally and state protected, so you're not harvesting lynx, but they put lynx in there. It's a confusion tactic. Make sure that they turn around and try to confuse the general public as much as what they can. Well, this is already illegal. Yes, but we want to make sure that it's never, ever legal. Oh, well, that would be good. Well, you're never going to turn around and do it anyway in the lower 48. I mean, you're just not. And so the confusion, the errors and omission that the opposition is giving us is something to where we have the opportunity to capitalize on that messaging. We have the ability to turn around and extend that message to Montana or Idaho or New Mexico or wherever it might be, because this is not a Colorado issue. It is for this particular ballot. But if they're successful here, you watch how many states, how many opportunities are given in other states for these guys to pick up the baton and say, hey, we were victorious. We were victorious with the biggest opposition we've ever faced. And we still won. And now we can turn around and move the needle at other levels. Cats Aren't Trophies had a webinar last Tuesday with the campaign managers and some of the animal rights extremists and the first gentleman of Colorado, the governor's husband, who is a animal rights extremist. I say extremist because he is. And also Wayne Pacelli with the Animal Action Welfare Institute. He was the former HSUS CEO. Wayne Pacelli said to the listeners on the webinar, this is a badge of honor for me. It's a burr underneath the saddle. He says that this is the most formidable, well-organized, well-funded opposition that we've seen, that we've had to go up against in the last 25 years. And I'm like, yes. One way or another, we're going to get underneath their skin, and one way or another, we're going to win. And if we do win, think where it's going to take us collectively, organizationally, structurally, financially, statewide, out of state. Who would want to screw with the most formidable, well-organized, resourceful opposition? I wouldn't. I'd think twice before I turn around and pick up somewhere. I'd want to go somewhere I knew I could win. They don't want to turn around and deal with us after they lose here. And I'm thinking they don't really want to go somewhere else that they're likely going to lose, that is employing our tactics and our successes and our momentum and our strategy and our assistance to be able to turn around and carry the baton to the next level. Charles and Mike and John with Hal are working intimately, three-pronged process with us. And we are formulating a plan of action. Congressional Sportsman's Foundation is helping behind the scenes. All the other coalition organizations that are out there that have given us a platform at their event to be able to fundraise on behalf of us. It's pretty damn phenomenal, pretty remarkable. And I don't think Wayne Pacelli wants to turn around and lose here, but he damn sure doesn't want to lose somewhere else. And I'm just I'm kind of enthusiastic. I'm trying to talk like a head coach that is guiding a victory, but I don't think it's going to be a tough road to toe, but I don't think we got that big of an issue because I see the opposition. Our biggest opposition is the people themselves, not the organization.
Yeah. Kelsey, did you have anything else you wanted to hit on?
No, I'm just feeling motivated. That's really what I'm feeling. I'm looking forward to, you guys winning, but also using what you guys have built for all of us going forward here in Washington. I think you've paved the road and lit the way, and I'm feeling motivated, and I'm also feeling like, we can get things done here. There's a lot of optimism. So
big time. Yeah, big time. You guys have carried the brunt of the storm for quite some time. And while we're no less important or no more important, they found a chink in the armor here because of governmental entities and a place that they could put people in place and then do their selection process at a different level. You guys have gone through the same thing. It's just that ours became a little bit more significant and serious because of the statutory definition. And I got to reemphasize that is the catalyst of their success. If we lose, they will not just take mountain lions and bobcats off. They will turn around and define trophy hunting. And it'll be easily defined at other levels. And that's what people need to concentrate on and pay attention to.
Yep. Yeah. It's I see people call it the mountain lion ban, but it's an all out hunting ban from what I've gathered from listening to you.
It's a hunting ban. Yes, sir.
I appreciate you coming on here. I love your passion, man. I can't thank you enough for all the stuff you're doing and taking time to talk to me and Kelsey.
Appreciate it.
And all the advice, over taking notes. And I hope this helps. I hope somebody hears this and wants to go donate and help the cause.
Appreciate the opportunity with both of you guys. Look forward to maybe reconnecting at some point in time and telling you about our strategy or our victory, our level of success. And I joke about this. If there was some reason that we were to lose, nobody's going to want to talk to us again. But if we win, it'll be a hell of a lot more busier than what it has been in the 9 months. And it's been phenomenally busy over the last 9 months. So I just appreciate the opportunity and wish you guys the best. And as I always say at the end of stuff, aim small, miss small, but that's nothing truer than that point at this point in time.
Thanks for leading the way, Dan.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
You have a good night.